Today we're going to talk about something called the discriminant formula. So here's your little video lesson. So just as a reminder for our standard form for quadratics, right, we have y equals our leading coefficient a times x squared plus our linear coefficient b times x plus some constant c. So we're going to use those three coefficients, a, b, and c, to find what's called the discriminant. And you're going to see what that formula is today, and you're going to try and discover what it tells you. So our discriminant formula is very simple. So our discriminant is going to be the b value squared minus 4 times a times c. I'm just going to recenter this in my box. So b squared minus 4ac. So we're going to do a couple of examples together. You'll do a couple on your own, and then you're going to try and see if you can figure out what this is telling us. So our discriminant formula, I'm just going to quick copy this down. Right, we're going to find the discriminant of each. And we're going to worry about the little graphs later. So our discriminant, right, b squared minus 4ac. So first we want to identify a, b, and c. So my a value is going to be equal to 1. My b value is also equal to 1, and my c value is equal to negative 3. So all we're going to do is plug into this formula. So I like to leave myself some gaps first. And then let's see, we have b is 1 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, and c is negative 3. Now I'm going to do this with like doing it out by hand, but you can also type it into a calculator. So 1 squared is equal to 1, right? 4 times 1 is 4, and then 4 times negative 3 is positive. We're going to get a positive 12 because the negative times a negative, so 1 plus 12. So my discriminant is going to be equal to 13. Right. So using that same formula, right, I'm going to paste that over there as well. I like to write the formula each time. I want you to go ahead and try number 2. Go ahead and pause the video, try number 2, and then come back in and see if you have the right answer. Okay, so assuming you have tried it, right, I'm going to set up my little formula first. So b squared minus 4 times a times c. So my a value is the number in front of x squared, so a is 4, b is going to be 1, and c is going to be 5. Okay, so b squared is going to be 1 squared again, minus 4 times a, which is also 4, and c, which is 5. Okay, so 1 squared is 1, minus 4 times 4 is 16, and then 16 times 5 is 80. So my discriminant is going to be negative 79. Okay, so I want to do number 3 with you just because it looks a little different. So if we look at number 3, right, that doesn't look quite like standard form. So I'm going to rewrite this first. We have y equals negative 5x squared. I have no x's in the middle, and then I still have my 6 at the end. So if you have trouble identifying a, b, and c, you want to make sure you put in those missing parts so that way you don't mislabel one of them as like the wrong thing. So now I can see that my a value is going to be equal to negative 5, b is 0, and c is 6. So now if I go ahead and plug in my formula, now I really encourage you to write the formula each time, especially while you're first learning this, so that way you kind of get that muscle memory down, so that way it's easy to remember it. So b squared, so we're going to get 0 squared minus 4 times a, which was negative 5, times c, which is 6. Okay, so 0 squared, that's really easy. That's just 0. So negative 4 times negative 5 is positive 20, and then 20 times 6 is going to give me 120. So my overall answer is just going to be 120. Okay, so again, I'm going to ask you to pause the video and try number 4 and see if you can figure out what that discriminant is. Okay, so let's go ahead and check our work. So first, right, let's identify A, B, and C. So A is 9, B is negative 24, and C is 16. Okay, so this is going to be setting up my little blanks to fill in. Right, we're going to get negative 24 squared minus 4 times A, which is 9, times C, which is 16. Now, I'm good at math, but I don't know 24 squared off the top of my head. So I'm going to pull up my little calculator here if Desmos will load, and I'm just going to type this in. So we got negative 24, whoops, if my pencil will work, squared. Notice that I put the negative inside with the 24 and then the square outside the parentheses. We're going to get minus 4 times 9 times 16. And when I do that, right, I press enter, it shows me that my answer is equal to 0. So we have a discriminant of 0 here. So now what I want you to do is kind of explore the relationship between this discriminant and the graphs. So if we look at our next direction, right, we're going to go to desmos.com/calculator, and you're going to graph each of these equations and sketch a simple graph. So you don't have to do a lot of detail. You just want to kind of sketch what it looks like. So I'm going to do number 1 with you so you kind of know what I'm looking for. And we're also going to identify, we're going to label how many x-intercepts each graph has. That's a typo, that should say intercepts. There we go. Okay, so first I am going to go to desmos.com/calculator. Now I'm on an iPad, so I am going to use the Desmos app. So I'm going to delete everything out. Otherwise, you just type in that website that I listed onto your note sheet. And our first problem, now I'm going to actually split my screen here. There we go, so that way we can see both things. Okay, so we have y equals x squared plus x minus 3. Okay, I'm going to close this just to make it bigger. Okay, so if we look here, nah, we'll just leave it like this. Okay, so if we look here, right, if we draw a basic graph, I'll draw it in purple so it matches my graph here, right? It kind of looks like this, right? And I have 1, 2 x-intercepts. So that's all we're doing. We're drawing a very basic graph. If you want, you could, of course, click on the points on Desmos and you could label where they are, but you don't have to. So go ahead and finish that for the next 3 graphs. So you don't have to keep all of them up. You can just go ahead and change that equation on your Desmos screen, and then you're going to finish labeling all of the graphs, sketching a picture, labeling how many x-intercepts you have. Once that's done, I want you to look for any patterns that you can, right, between the value of the discriminant, so that number that we first found for each equation, and the number of the x-intercepts that you labeled for each graph. And whatever you notice, so any observations or predictions you have, I want you to write on the back of this worksheet so we can go over that in class tomorrow.